This man comes home with a full load every time he goes to the supermarket without spending a penny and walks out of the supermarket with a flourish. So how does he do it? When he arrived at the supermarket, grabbed a few items at random, he put them in his pocket when no one was looking, then he scattered them to the other customers, not even the salesman, then he can shop happily on the other side of the checkout counter. After the customer has finished shopping and checked out, the supermarket alarm goes off on its own. The salesman goes to check it out and also sounds the alarm. The supermarket thinks there is a malfunction. They had to let the customer go. Then the uncle, wrapped in a heavy coat, he walked away from the salesman without a hitch. His name is Benny. He saves as much as he can in his daily life. It was because he was so stingy. He's not married in his 40s. Benny lives in a rented flat. The rent is often in arrears. To avoid the caretaker every day, he had to walk through the security room in a crouch every time. Recently there have been a number of murders in the city. The victims were also women. The police have targeted Benny. The reason was that he was often complained about by women for being too lewd looking, but the police didn't have any evidence, so they tried to use the beauty ploy. The chief of police sent Nicole, a young female officer from the station, to go there. Nicole came to the flat as a tenant. Benny ran into her. He then invites her to share the apartment with him with great enthusiasm. Benny didn't really think she was pretty. It was just a simple attempt to save money. Nicole, who was worried about how to proceed, so she said yes. In the evening Nicole arrived in a tight dress. She arrived at the flat with her luggage. Benny was very happy to welcome Nicole, and so began their life together. Ever since Nick moved into the flat, Benny hasn't had a good night's sleep, because Nick would dress simply and coolly at home every day, and changed in front of Benny. Benny is cautious every day in the flat. She was afraid that if she looked any further she would have to open a VIP. Nick tried everything he could, but Benny still didn't move. Nicole had no choice but to change into the ultimate battle dress, with the intention of dealing Benny a fatal blow. Benny had no choice but to keep banging his head against the wall. It was a way to get rid of the flood of energy. After days of fighting between the two, Benny didn't show any signs of weakness. Back at the police station he told the sheriff Benny might not be the killer, but the sheriff was convinced that Benny was the killer, so he ordered Nicole to go back on the job. Benny was also in a lot of pain. As a single 40-something-year-old boy, his nose would bleed at the sight of a beautiful woman, let alone being in a room with one. To distract himself, Benny signed up to learn Chinese. For the next few weeks, Benny was out early and back late every day, just to reduce the chances of seeing you. The sheriff kept pushing Nicole to solve the case as soon as possible. Nicole was also very frustrated. She hadn't seen Benny for days. The sheriff saw that the case was slow, so he took his wife into action. They came to the house dressed as tailors. They managed to get in under the pretext of making Nicole's clothes. Benny, who was busy in the kitchen, hearing that a guest had arrived below, so he turned around and came out with a kitchen knife in his hand. He tripped over the threshold on the way out. He tripped over the threshold and slashed right into the sheriff's wife. Luckily the knife caught in the middle. The sheriff's wife was stunned on the spot. He lost his wife's life. He took his wife and left. The day the sheriff delivered a Little Red Riding Hood outfit, intended for Nicole to wear Little Red Riding Hood to give Benny a final test. So Nicole got changed into her Red Riding Hood outfit and asked Benny how he was doing. He said it was too small. Nicole was furious and left with her luggage. On the other hand, the murder happened again. Under the pressure of public opinion, the sheriff ignored the procedure and evidence. A red notice was issued for Benny on the spot. Benny's picture was already being shown on TV all the time, and he was still shopping. Soon the crowd surrounded Benny's flat. Benny saw the action in front of him, so he went in and watched, and asked the people around him what was going on. The crowd looked at him. They saw that this was the man who was wanted. The angry crowd surrounds him. Benny realized that something was wrong, so he ran out of the crowd and ran. A large crowd chased after him. Benny ran to his Chinese teacher's house. He tried to hide out, but the teacher wasn't home, so he went in through the window. On the other side of the crime scene, Nicole found a toy. He found out that the toy was Benny's Chinese teacher, and that's how the case came to light. The teacher was the real killer. On the other hand, Benny had fallen asleep in his teacher's house. He soon returned. There was blood on his body. Benny noticed that something was wrong with the teacher, so he said he had to go home to his mother. But then the police arrived. The teacher and pupil quickly hid behind the window. The policeman kicked the door open. After a while Benny came out with his head in his hands. In the end, Benny proved his innocence, and the teacher was brought to justice. The beautiful Nicole fell in love with the simple Benny, so he plans to stay in the flat with Benny, maybe for the rest of their lives. And that's the end of the film.